everybody, welcome back. We are going to continue myofascia releasing our body. And today our focus is going to be on our calves and our shin area. So once again, some types of equipment that you might want to have handy that we're going to use. We are going to do some of our stretch, our test, our retest. So some stretching of the calves. So oftentimes when we're stretching our calves, it may be really nice to have a yoga strap of sorts, any type, a tie, a belt from your robe works really great. Of course, you don't have to have any of that, but that's a handy piece of equipment to have by. And then it's just always nice to have, a yoga blanket, a bolster, some blocks when we do some of the stretching, but none of that is necessarily required. You can do all of the stretching without anything. As far as our myofascia tools that we're going to have today, I'm going to be demonstrating some things that you can do with a stick roller. Again, brand does not matter. And a kitchen rolling pin can also work. So something that you would roll pizza dough with can work. So you can make different things work. We're going to be using our massage balls again. Now, I did bring in 3 different sizes. Again, I'm partial to a specific brand, but there are many, many, many brands out there. You're going to find the brand that works for you. We're all a little bit different. Our tissue is a little bit different. So you're going to look for what brand, what style fits you. Again, you can always sub in tennis balls or lacrosse balls, just remembering that they are designed for tennis and lacrosse ball and lacrosse, so they may not be the perfect consistency. But if you've got a couple of different sizes, I recommend, when we do our feet, we stick mainly with the smaller ball because it's a small part of our body, even though it has a whole bunch of bones and tendons and ligaments and muscles. The calves are a little bit bigger area, so this type of ball that I use, there are 3 sizes. So you've got the big one, you've got the middle size, and then the small size, which we used with our feet. The bigger size is going to be less intense because it's going to cover more area. Medium intensity, most intense. There will be places where you could take out and use just one ball. That's going to be a little bit more intense than 2, but again, it's going to depend on the size. So I always tell people when you're getting started, just experiment a little bit. I actually went into a sporting goods store once and I pull out all kind of their different massage balls and even a lacrosse ball, things like that they had in the store. And I tried them out, right? People probably thought it was a little bit crazy, right? But you want to find what works for you. And now I don't mean I was laying down on their floor, right, giving myself a whole full massage, but I took one and I'd roll it over my arm a little bit just to kind of see that consistency that I preferred. The other tool that we'll use a little bit today is the gua sha tool again. So the basic gua sha, and I did grab a wrench, right? It's just a handy dandy little $2 wrench from the local hardware store. You just want to keep it nice and clean. Don't go dig in an old toolbox and get a rusty wrench out. And then once again, I don't use any type of oil if I'm using the massage balls, but if I'm using my hands or gua sha or a wrench, any type of oil or lotion can help make that a little bit nicer as well. All right, so once you kind of have your equipment gathered up, we're going to start with a little bit of stretching to get that little bit of test. Now remember, our body is all intertwined, right? So it's very hard to isolate working, building strength in one area. It's very hard to isolate stretching just one area. So you're going to get some stretch in multiple areas of your body, but the calf is going to be affected as well. So one stretch for our calf, we could do this single leg. So we could extend a single leg out front, or we could do it double leg, is simply flexing the feet. Now to get into the calves, it's going to be more about the foot flex. I would even keep my knees a little bit soft. You could even bring a blanket underneath the knees to keep it soft so that you can focus on the flex. The more we get into the flattening of the knee, we get more up into the hamstring, right? So I could bring this little blanket underneath my knees, flex my feet. Now if I can reach for my feet, right, I can just use my hands. And I'm just gently pulling on the ball of my foot. That's where that yoga strap belt tie comes in handy, because I could take the strap on the ball of the foot, not the arch, not the heel, up on the ball. And I'm using the strap more to help me flex my feet than I am using it to help pull my chest down, right? So I could stay right here. When I use the strap, a lot of times I like to do one foot at a time because I just feel like the strap stays on better. I'm not necessarily trying to come down really low. I'm using the strap for the flex, right? And so I'm just kind of testing. Don't over pull. It's a great place to kind of warm up your calves without over pulling. You could do some down dogs. We'll do that in a moment. You can do some stretches on the floor as well. We're not warm. We don't want to over stretch. So you could also come up into your down dog, another great way to kind of stretch the calves a little bit, lifting one heel as you place one down, driving your tailbone high to the sky, pull the navel to the spine. And you can switch that out. You can pedal the feet back and forth. You can hold. We're just being mindful, right? Being in the moment, seeing how our feet and our ankles and really our hamstrings in general, right? Because even just rolling the calves is going to affect all of that. One more place that you could use to kind of take that stretch would be laying on your back, right? One foot on the ground, knee bent, take the strap over the opposite foot, extend it up to the ceiling. I have a little blanket underneath my head just to make that a little more comfortable. You could have that underneath your low back, right? And again, I'm working on the flexing of the foot. So pulling down on the ball of the foot, I could straighten my other leg. But where I want to work here, where I'm kind of testing, right? Again, I'm not trying to get a deep stretch here, is the calf. So I want to work the flex. So you even have a soft knee so that you can pull and work the calf stretch more so than the hamstring. Right? And then just so we're a little bit even, we'll try the other side. So we're going to repeat this again at the end. Right? We don't necessarily have to hold our stretches that long here. It's just a little bit of a warm up, more just a test, just seeing how my body feels. Now, you don't have to do this every time either. Don't feel that you always have to test, roll, and retest. I do recommend stretching after rolling. It's just great. It feels good. But we're basically just doing the test because I want you to get a feel for that. I want you to get a feel for the difference in the before and the after. All right, so let's roll, my friends. Choose the size ball you want. Again, I'm going to give you different techniques here. So if one doesn't work, then you're going to try another. All right, so don't feel like you have to do every technique. Personally, when I roll my calves, I tend to use the mid-size ball. If I really want some deep tissue, I might go to the smaller ball. There are occasions when I'll grab the bigger ball as well. So again, it's just kind of playing with it. So one of my personal favorite ways to massage my calf, I'm going to show you that first. This does not feel good for everyone because maybe it bothers their knee or maybe it bothers their shin, right? But you don't know if you don't try. So you could have the blanket underneath you, right? Just to give you a little bit of support onto the knees. We're going to take the ball, two in a bag or a sock. A sock works great, my friends. Put 2 balls in a sock, tie the end closed. I'm going to bring the ball between the hamstring and the calf, and I'm going to start to sit back on it. It's a great ball smash. Right? I'm going to take my time because if I just immediately put all my weight on it, I'm going to go, right? Especially if I'm tight there. So I'm not applying full weight into this. I'm kind of keeping my hands on the ground. I'm taking a little pressure. I could come onto my elbows as well if that feels good. And I'm just going to start to kind of rock side to side. And as I do so, that ball is going to massage side to side. Now, if you like this method, you can stay with this method, 5-10 minutes each leg. I'm going to show you some different methods throughout the video So I want you to think of this as something that you can follow along with me and do everything I do, or you can choose your favorite parts, turn the video off, work your favorite parts, and then maybe come back. So what I want to do if I'm in this method is just every so often, right, just whenever it feels right, I'm going to take the balls, I'm just going to move them a little bit so that I get a little different area of my calf. Now I can continue to stay down on my arms, or I can start to come up. I sometimes apply a little bit more pressure from the top. Right? So I'm gonna really smash into it. Applying a little bit more smash and hold. Right? Press in and hold. Now one thing I like about this method is you do get a little bonus hamstrings. So we're gonna work hamstrings more later, but you do get some bonus hamstrings in this method. Because right here, as I'm smashing one ball, the other one's not really doing it. One of the balls is getting right into a hamstring trigger point. It's kind of nice. Right? And then I can just move the balls again. Right? So you might move them 3 or 4 times up and down the leg. Now, if you're trying this method right here and you're like, this doesn't work for me, this bothers my knee, you can fast forward. Right? It's great to see and know, because at some time it may work for you. But if it doesn't work for you, there are other methods that you can try. So feel free to just kind of fast forward through them. And we're going to go to the other leg. So we're just doing a couple of minutes on each leg, again, because I'm going to show you different methods. So same kind of concept on the other leg. I want to be gentle because this side may be tighter than the other side. And I start to just kind of rock back and forth, massaging in, moving some, holding some, maybe applying a little more pressure from the top. Remembering that I can try the different size balls as well. So if I wanted to go to the smaller size, we'll see how this feels. Right, it's going to be a little more intense. Remembering our same rules apply through everything. Move the balls to a little bit different area. Try a different method, which you are going to see many different methods. If in doubt, check it out. So if you're like, oh man, I've got a calf injury and I just don't know, right? It's always, always best to just make sure, get things checked out. Active injury, if you have a torn calf muscle, right, you want to give it some heal time before you start massaging it. There's a little bonus hamstring spot right there. I'm just moving the balls around. Now I like to do different methods because different days, different things feel best to me. So the balls are one method. I rarely ever use the double balls in this position. You can. It just doesn't feel right to me, right? But this is about what feels right to you. So find which balls work best to you. So that's one method, more of that kind of child's pose position. Another method is to actually extend one leg out long. Again, I can use any 3 sizes. Bigger is going to be less intense. I'm going to bring the ball onto the ground, place the calf on top of it, and roll here. Now I can rotate to the outer calf, and I can rotate to the inner calf. I can lift myself up, lift my bottom up off the air. Right, put more pressure. So I can play around there. I can try different sizes. Small is going to be a little bit more intense. And then sometimes when I roll this way, oh, that feels really good right there. I need to pause right there for just a moment with you. Right? So when you find those spots, I can hear it. I can feel my little speed bump. Now, in this method with the leg extended out long, right, I can go up and down with the muscle. I can go across the muscle. And when I'm going across the muscle right here, it's where I'm really kind of feeling my little knot. And so I can find that knot and press into it. So even though I have 2 balls here, I'm pressing my little knot into 1 ball. Or I could use 1 ball, right? Any size. I'm just playing with all the different sizes here. Now, 1 ball might have more of a tendency to roll away from you. But in this position, 1 ball can be really nice too, because I have quite a bit of control on how I can roll. So I could go in circular motion. I could go side to side. I could go up and down. I can pin it and push down. I could take my other foot, apply a little pressure from the top. So right here, I'm on a little trigger point. I'm on a little knot area. I can feel it. When I roll back and forth over it, I can feel rolling over it. So I try to get on it. It's not too intense. It's not taking my breath away. So it's safe for me to stay here. If it's too intense, I may not want to hold on it. I can hold on it for 10, 15, 20 seconds, 30 maybe. And then I can slowly roll off of it. So what am I looking for, right, is that pain gets less. I know that the knot, the trigger point, the fascia is breaking up. Sometimes I'll actually feel it completely give. Right, let's do a little bit on both legs. So we stay even, so same kind of option, 2 balls, single ball. I'll start with the 2. 2 is going to be a little less intense. Now, everything in our calf is very interconnected to our foot because our gastrocnemius, our soleus, right, they come in, they connect into that Achilles tendon, comes down to connects into our foot. On the front of our leg, which we'll get into in a moment, our anterior tibialis, our posterior tibialis that kind of lays underneath our shin bone, all come down and connect into the foot. So if we have tightness in the lower leg, muscle connects to tendon, which connects to bones, right? Then bone to ligament to the next bone. All of that intertwined with fascia, right? So tightness in any of that area is going to pull on what's below it. It's going to be pulled on or pull on what's above it. So it's very interconnected. Again, you find that little trigger point, right? You can stay on it. Here I was staying on it with 2 balls, or I could go to a single ball. Good rules of thumb, right? Feel free to stay kind of in any area of your body, 5 to, 15-ish minutes. Bigger areas, you could spend a little bit more time. What I want to really point out is if you have a tight area, so for me, my shoulder, right? I don't want to roll one little area of my shoulder for 2 hours. I'm like, by golly, I'm going to roll this till it doesn't hurt anymore. Because then I'm going to over agitate. So what I'm trying to do is loosen up the area to let the blood supply flow in and the lymphatic system to, lymph system to carry things out. If I overdo, right, I'm going to actually cause more inflammation. So we're looking for kind of just a nice sweet spot. I personally usually aim 5 to 10 minutes, but I just kind of listen to my body, how it feels. You could probably go up to about 15. I wouldn't go over 15 minutes. So if I'm working my calves here, I would not stick with one calf for more than 15 minutes max. 5 to 10 is going to be great. And then give it some time. Come back to it tomorrow. Maybe come back to it if you rolled in the morning. Maybe come back and roll in the evening. If that's fine. But don't over agitate. Give it some time to recover, to heal, to let, the blood supply that you are letting in, let it in. Let the lymphatic system take stuff out. And then sometimes you'll notice, like I wouldn't have said when I started this, I wouldn't have been like, oh, my calves are sore. I really need to roll my calves. But now that I'm starting to roll, I'm like, wow, there's some tightness there. Now, with that being said, I have had some foot pain. So my tendency might be, oh, my foot hurts, let me roll my foot. Well, yes, but if my calf is tight, right, it's going to affect what's going on my foot too. So think about rolling, not just the area where you're feeling the pain or the tightness, because there's definitely some tightness here in my calf that I wasn't really feeling. Now, one more method I like to use on the calves that work well is that stick roller, because it's a nice area of our body where we can bring the stick roller underneath and we can get some up and down motion here. This can also be really good if I'm a little tighter in my calf and I don't really want to push into the balls, or maybe I want to sit in a chair, right? And I can't really roll my calf sitting in a chair, but I could maybe lean over and use my stick roller. So stick rollers work really nice on the calves. And you can just work again as I'm kind of rolling down and I feel that little lumpier part, that more tender part. Maybe I just work with that. It's a little harder to hold into it here. I can move my hand and kind of apply pressure into it, or I can just work going up and down, back and forth over it. So stick rollers can be amazing. We can do a pretty good job with our hands on our calves, right? So it is an area that we can reach. So maybe taking the thumbs, right? Thumbs are always a great place to give a little deep trigger point. It's going to be deeper than even the small ball. So with my thumb, right, I find that trigger point. I can really get into it. And then if you imagine this is your calf and this is your thumb, right? I can just kind of shimmy it. So I'm pressing in and shimmying up and down. And that can be really, really nice too. Just trying to get that muscle, that fascia to release. Now we think a lot more about massaging our calves than maybe we do the front part of our leg. And I will say I do usually tend to spend more time on the calf than the front part, but the front is also really important. So down our outer side of our leg, we have our anterior tibialis. So that's the muscly part that we can really feel. Then you have more of a bony part here on your shin. Anytime you're working with a bony part, you want to proceed with caution. Now, in one of the caution videos that we did in the beginning, we talked about places that we never want to kind of roll because they're super, super sensitive areas. The shin is not necessarily a place that you can't do anything. I mean, there is a little bit of tissue that runs over it. I don't ever use the stick roller, right? I will use the stick roller on the outer side, on the anterior tibialis, right? So stick roller could work there. Thumbs can work there. So maybe give that roller a try or give your thumbs a try. You can also use the balls, and I will show you that in a moment. I like to take the knuckle of my thumb a lot, right? And again, I'm kind of pushing in and jiggling, getting things to loosen up. And just in general, using my hands. And I will talk about this inside area here in a moment in the posterior tibialis. But let's focus kind of on the anterior tibialis. And down, remember, I can get down into my ankles and into my foot. I can combine that. I don't have to separate them. Now, to roll this area, again, we have to get a little crafty with how we're sitting. So depending on flexibility, you might prefer to use your hands or a stick roller, maybe even be sitting in a chair, then down on the floor. So all of that is a possibility. Small balls or kind of medium-sized ball. I rarely use the big balls here because it is a smaller area of the body, and I find the big balls to be a little bit big. But what we're going to do is lay the balls perpendicular to the shin, and I come more into kind of this mermaid set. Now this takes some hip flexibility. So if this doesn't work for you, this would not be a way that you would probably choose to massage the legs. Stick with the fingers, stick with the stick roller. But I can bring the balls underneath. I can lift my foot. I can roll up and down here. I can apply a little pressure with my hand. Now, even though I have 2 balls here, I am currently kind of rolling into both balls. But if I want to make that a little more intense, I slide the ball so that as I roll, I'm really only rolling into one ball. Now, I could actually use one ball, right? Or like just use one ball. The thing is, it's easier for that one ball to kind of roll away because the 2 balls have more stability. But you can roll with just one ball. Now, anytime you use one ball, what's nice about it is the range of motion. I can move more easily. So I can go back and forth. I can do some circles. I can really get some nice pinning. There we go. And as you're massaging around in here, you're going to feel little areas where so we've got our anterior tibialis, and then, back here behind it, we come into like our gastrocnemius, our soleus, where you're going to feel some little grooves where you kind of get in between the groove of one muscle and another. And a lot of times that's where you'll find a little bit of tenderness. So you don't have to have like full body anatomy knowledge, right, to do this, because you're doing it yourself. You're just going on what feels good. If it doesn't, remember I used feel good and pain loosely, but if it doesn't feel like there's something good out of it, it's making your eyes water. It's making it difficult to breathe. It's making you want to scream, right? Change the method, back off the pressure, move above it, move below it. But when I find a pressure point where I'm like, oh yeah, that's a little more tender than other places, but it's not affecting my breath, then I can hold on it. I can hold. And oftentimes when you find these little trigger points, you'll feel some stuff in other areas of your body. Now, if it's that tingly nerve pain, back off of it. We don't want to roll our nerves. But if it's more of kind of like you just like you feel that muscle, that same sensation, but in another area, then maybe stay there because you're on a trigger point. So right here, I feel some sensation where I'm pressing into the ball. Like there is sensation right there. But I feel the same sensation that I feel here, I feel down here along my outer ankle. It feels the same, but I'm not even touching my outer ankle. So what does that tell me? That muscle that I'm in, whether I know the name of it or not, doesn't matter. But I am working that entire area because, right, I'm feeling it somewhere I'm not even at. And now in the minute or so that I've been talking, the pain or sensation has completely eliminated down here lower and almost completely eliminated here. So I've released that trigger point, at least as much as I'm probably going to release it today. So I move on. Maybe I move to the other leg. Now you can roll over your yoga pants, or you can, pull them up if they seem to be in your way. You can be in shorts. Whatever feels good to you. I will say if you're wearing baggy clothing, now it's not so much of a big deal down on the lower part of your leg because you could just roll your pants up. But when we get up to the back and things like that, if you have a baggy shirt on, it will sometimes get caught up in the balls. So I recommend, wearing tighter clothing, or, a guy, you wouldn't have to wear a shirt at all. If you're at home, it doesn't matter, or right in the privacy of your own home, or maybe just wear a sports bra or a tank, something that's a little more tight fitting. So same options on the other side, right? I can start with double balls. I'm still working more on that outer, that anterior tibialis. We're going to finish on that inner in a moment. Now, I do this quite a bit, so I kind of know where my areas are. And our areas tend to always be our areas. They can get better, right? They'll get better, they'll feel better, and then you'll have a hard workout and it'll kind of flare back up. So that's why it's, it's a consistent. It's not like I'm going to roll once. I got rid of that little trigger point that I was in. I roll once. I never have to roll again, right? No. This leg is the same. Then I'm going to switch back to the single ball, but I could be pressing into just one of the double balls. Right? I find my trigger point. So I started with kind of some moving. I'm always going to start with more of that moving. And then I'm going to press in because I felt this earlier. Now this place is kind of unique. Not unique, but I will tell you what I'm feeling. So where I'm pushing in here, I'm feeling the sensation here, right where the ball is. I'm going to show you on my other leg, but I'm feeling sensation right up here on my outer hip, on the same leg, not the other leg, but I just wanted you to see that. The IT band, right, comes up here from the hip, comes down and attaches. So it's totally okay if I don't know the parts of the anatomy. Right now I'm teaching you, so hopefully I know them, but you don't have to know them. But what I do know is whatever I'm triggering on right here is having some effect in other areas of my body. Now, I'm feeling it here. I'm feeling it up on my hip. I'm actually feeling it down along that outer ankle again. So that tells me this is a good trigger point, right? This is a point where I want to spend a little bit of time. So maybe I roll it a little bit, and then maybe I hold it. Again, I don't want to overdo 3-4 minutes, right? And then give it some time. It may not completely release like the other side did. But it already, my outer hip sensation, I'm no longer feeling. I'm still feeling at the spot. I'm still feeling down along the outer ankle. But one sensation did already release. So that lets me know it's working. Nice. So now you could roll, all the way up. You could even get down into that ankle, which we talked about earlier. So the balls work great. Stick pin works, or rolling pin works great on the anterior tibialis, works great on the calf, all around the calf. Our gua sha tool, our handy little wrench, right? I do want to lotion up, right, if I'm using these. Now, I'm not for the purposes of the video because I don't want to get oil all over the floor. So I'm being gentle, right? But lotion up, oil up works great. Now, I can gua sha any part of my body, right? You can go places where someone will gua sha you, just like getting a massage. The thing is, I can't reach all of my body very well. Like, it's hard to get into different areas of my back, but I can reach on my calf, right? So I could gua sha, especially down in the lower areas, right? Where we kind of worked earlier with the ankle area, because it gets bonier. Excuse me. It gets bonier down there in that area. So that is a great place to gua sha. Get that little crunchiness. If you've ever sprained your ankle, you've had an injury, you're probably going to feel some crunchiness. But I can gua sha all the way up. You're going to get a little redness. I have some redness here where I was rolling, right? Because the body's going, ooh, something's going on there. Let me send the blood supply. Let me send the oxygen. Let me send the white blood cells. Let me, start to clear up that area. So reddening is okay. You just don't want to be excessively bruising yourself. So I can use the gua sha on any of this. I really love it in the lower parts. The other place I really like to use the gua sha is more on the shin area, because again, I don't have a lot of tissue covering, but I do have fascial layers and they can get tightened, especially if you have things like shin splints, right? You're going to have some injury in there. We want to bring the blood supply in. So that is a great area to gua sha. Now, it will usually redden up a little bit. Again, I'm not pushing really hard. I'm being very light. Don't push really hard. You're going to bruise yourself. That's not what we're after. Right? I can do that on both legs. So again, I may be going faster than you want to go, right? Stop the video anytime. Stick with an area. Find the method that works for you. Try them all. Right? This is a learning tool as well as a follow along. All right, so I can gua sha any of that. Man, I've got some crunchiness down around my ankles for sure. And just, work around it. Now, there's one piece we've kind of left out to this lower leg. I said it, we haven't done much about it yet, the posterior tibialis. So our posterior tibialis runs kind of underneath the shin bone. It's not a part of our body that's super easy to get into. But what I find works best is to take my thumbs, find your shin bone. So here's my shin bone. And I want to try to imagine, if you've got really long fingernails, this won't work so well. I want to imagine massaging underneath my shin bone. So if I take my thumb over it, kind of press above kind of my big calf muscle here, right? And work to massage almost like I'm trying to wrap my thumb in there and massage under my shin bone. Right, that can get a little bit into that posterior tibialis. Now, the posterior tibialis, we don't hear much about it, right? You're like, I've heard of the anterior tibialis. It comes down and it attaches into like 9 different places in our foot. So you can imagine, it is a very important muscle for foot movement. So when we're rolling our feet and massaging our feet, we are also kind of triggering some of that posterior tibialis. But I mostly just use my thumbs here. You could take the small ball and kind of roll in. It doesn't really get up and under the bone, but as I'm kind of rolling through here, I'm definitely loosening, the fascial layers that are near the posterior tibialis area. So the ball can work. Personally, like I said, I use my thumbs. Now that, it can be a little bit intense, especially as you get lower. So the lower we go down, right, we get a lot more tightness. Many of us have had ankle sprains, ankle injuries, right? My tissue just feels tighter. So maybe I get a little, less intense with the massaging. You may want to do both legs. So wrapping up under the shin bone. It's definitely a sensation. I would not say it's painful. I wouldn't say, ooh, it feels great. Right? It's that just right where I'm like, oh yeah, it's tight. I've got something going on, something happening here, but it's not so intense to the point where I just can't handle it. Just like anywhere else in my body, I find some tenderness, I'm gonna hold there a little bit. My left leg, a lot more tender than my right. It is my left foot where I tend to get a little bit of the heel pain, a little bit of the plantar fascia pain, right? So the pain is in my foot, but I'm noticing I'm a lot tighter in this leg and the calf than I am in the other leg. So, right, is the issue in the foot, or is the issue the tightness up in the calf and the shin, the anterior posterior tibialis, right? So I want to work all of that. Nice. All right, so hopefully that feels pretty good. You feel like you got an awesome lower leg massage. Let's come back and do a little bit of our retest, right? So I like to do stretches after I roll, just in general when I can. Some days, right, life happens, I'm not able to stretch. I don't always do the test before. I'm just putting some of that in there because I want you to kind of feel the difference. But I do like to stretch after. You don't have to do all of these stretches. You can choose the one that feels best to you. So maybe I'm using my strap, maybe not. Maybe I'm doing one leg or two. Lean forward. Maybe lift my heels up, really flex the foot. The other stretch I like to do here, we didn't do at the beginning. My apologies, I just kind of forgot to do it, is we can flex the feet, but we can also point the feet. So as I point the feet down, right, I'm stretching up through the shin, through the top of the foot, and can really kind of judge my range of motion. Now, you might not see huge ranges of motion difference in just one time, but over time, right, you'll start to notice that. I can do that stretch from my back, right, or my calf here. Oh, that feels really nice. I really like this stretch because it just feels nice to lay down and stretch. I'm laying on something here. So our after stretches, right, we want to try to hold the position 30 seconds plus. Think of a yin class, right? You might hold this position 5 minutes. Then we'll switch that out. So the stretching, the before and the after for the test, retest, right? That's just a little novelty. That's just to kind of feel the difference. That's not what all of this is about. That's just, feel the before, feel the after, notice the difference. The stretching after, or maybe you stretch before and roll, right? You could really do either. But it's all part of the process. It's all part of the myofascial release, right? Because now I'm that cotton ball, right? I'm lengthening the tissue just enough, and then I'm holding it. And my body will hold that new shape for a while. Now, we love to go where we're used to going. So over time, right, that tightness will come back in. But we roll, we stretch again. And over a process of weeks, right, we began to hold that new shape. Now, it's not a new shape in that we're going to grow 3 inches. Right? It's juicing the layers, right? But it's juicing them because now the layers aren't so tight and cramped and crumbled. So the water hose, the liquid can flow through the blood supply, through the arteries, through the veins, through the lymphatic system. The nerves, right? Our nerves are tubes and they're sending signals all the time. The nerves are running through that fascia as well. So if the fascia is all cramped up into the nerve, the signal can't get through, right? So you'll have people who say, I can't feel my feet. Proprioception. Come on down. And we'll get a little stretch. Those same stretches that we did earlier with our feet also can work here as well. Right, so you could take kind of your hunched over stretch. So anyway, you'll get people to say, I can't feel my feet, or my feet always hurt, right? That's nerve signals either not getting through, getting confused. It affects our whole proprioception through our body. Remember, our nervous system is also tied in with our fight, flight, freeze, rest, digest. So if the correct signals aren't getting through, we might feel more anxious, things like that. So it's not just about the loosening and the feeling good of the muscle. It's about the whole well-being of the body. The down dog stretches, right? Pressing down through one heel. And pressing down through the other heel. Maybe both. If you don't like down dog, right, you don't have to do this pose. There's so many different ways we can stretch out. And maybe you have your favorite way to stretch out. Feel free to use it. But it's a great idea somewhere incorporated in with the rolling, with the releasing. Take a little time to do some stretching as well. Thank you so much for joining me for the lower leg portion of this class. And I will see you back again soon. Have a great day.